This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
Hey everyone, it's Meredith. You're listening to the Afternoon Snack Podcast. Today's episode, we're back after a week off, and we're going to talk about Unbound, the gravel race in Emporia, Kansas that I just did. It is the most famous gravel race probably in all the world. It is the birthplace of gravel. It is where the Gravel Hall of Fame lives. And wow, what an epic year. I don't want to spoil anything because we talk about so much, but it's the A race. It's the one that I've been training for really since November. And there were lots of twists and turns this year, a little bit of weather, which you probably know about, and certainly a lot of lessons learned along the way. So I hope you enjoy this episode.
Man, where do we even begin?
I think we're about to go on a journey back in time.
Yeah, we have a lot to cover.
Yeah, the reason why we took last week off of releasing a podcast is because, number one, there was so much to cover. And number two, we were about to go do something that would fit really well into this podcast. So it's like, wait for it. And here we are.
This is going to be a very bike-focused podcast.
Yeah, it kind of started as like the Unbound recap. And then it was the Unbound and the Dusty Bandita recap. And now it's the Unbound and the Dusty Bandita and bike packing and camping in Idaho with Rebecca Rush.
I honestly think this might be a two-parter.
We'll see.
We're going to see where it takes us.
If we get to like 50 minutes and we're not there, it'll be a part one and part two. But
yeah.
Let's see how she goes. So, start us off.
All right. You did Unbound 200. This was your second year doing it. Let's go back to before Unbound, the actual race. We've talked a little bit about training, but what did you do differently leading into the race, the several months before leading into the race than you did last year? And how did you feel going in as a result?
Good question. I think the last 2 years I have suffered from like a level of overexcitement with training and with like getting ready for this race specifically. And what that led me to was probably peaking a little bit too early, which I think is super common, especially for early spring or like early summer races. People get excited around the new year, they train really hard, and then they peak at like the end of April for their June 1st race. And I definitely have felt that, which is not to say that the training that I had done in the previous 2 years was bad. I was new to it. I wasn't sure how things should feel. And so I just sort of like overcooked it a little bit too early. Was I bound to do that? Maybe. I don't know. It just was part of the process. And like, despite that, still had pretty good results, especially the first year in the 100. Yeah, and honestly, last year in my first 200 too, I was pretty happy with that. But I definitely felt like the last 4 weeks of training, even like maybe 6 weeks of training, I was kind of just holding on. Like I was like, I'm still 6 weeks away. So this year, number one biggest change, I hired a coach. So I worked with Kristen Legan starting in around December. And the goal there was to, number one, I guess, I just said two number ones. Number one. Number 1A. Just work with someone who has so much experience in the sport and like the sort of ultra endurance length bike races. And then also just have my training be more intelligent. Like there was something about what I was doing, because I was just working off of a Training Peaks program, like it worked, but my intuition was that it was just a little too much intensity.
This was last year.
Mm-hmm. And that was, Kristen validated that right away when we started working on like within her structure. And the structure of Kristen's training, which I also adopted and used with my We Ride group, was basically 2 structured rides per week. So when I say structured, I mean varied intensity intervals. So it might be working up towards like VO2 intervals, working near LT, so working around that sweet spot interval, maybe even some like zone 3 blocks here and there. But the structured training was progressive. So twice per week, usually midweek, like Wednesday-ish, and then also on Saturday, so one on the weekend. And then you'd see that, like I saw that kind of increase in duration, not necessarily intensity, but definitely time in those intervals, in those zones. And then the remainder, like the rest of the rides for the week were kind of just base riding. And so really the idea is like get in volume, get in time on the bike at lower intensity, and then touch on intensity twice per week. And then kind of let it go from there. So like from like a feeling standpoint, it felt way more sustainable. And then unsurprisingly, I felt way better on the bike. Like I felt like when I was working hard on like interval work, my power was improving pretty consistently. And then a couple of, there was a couple of sort of gravel simulation races sprinkled in kind of late spring just to do the much longer rides, like 7 to 8 hour rides with testing nutrition, testing strategy, hitting some efforts within those. So it wasn't just go out and ride your bike, for 8 hours. It was, here's some structure to it that emulates kind of what you will feel in a gravel race. So yeah, training went super well. I was really, really happy with how things went. And I'm looking forward to continuing working with Kristen late summer and like next year again, because I just found her very invaluable.
Yeah, one of my questions was, how did having a coach help? And so you mentioned that not building too early, like having a base period. And then when did you start really kind of like ramping things up? The race was at the beginning of June. So how many weeks out did you really start like a build?
It was gradual. So I'd say the build really started in like March.
Okay.
So I'd say I was down in Patagonia, Arizona in late February. And I remember a conversation with Kristen because she was also there. Mm-hmm. And it basically was like, when you get back, take a week easy because there was a lot of riding in Arizona. And then we'll start turning some dials and getting race ready. So it was in March when the race build started.
So about 12 weeks out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say the kind of the peak week, really like 4 to 6 weeks out is kind of where we're like 4 weeks out was where things were really peaking and feeling quite hard.
Okay. So a part of having a coach is tempering that excitement early on. What else did you benefit? In what other ways did you benefit from having her? Like, did you ever run into struggles where you had to adjust your training or you needed reassurance in any way? Like, in what other ways besides the programming did Kristen help leading in?
Yeah, definitely scheduling. So there were, we had a couple of trips in there. There's like planning around that. Planning around, I never got injured, but I think I got sick sometime in there. So like helping with that. And also someone to be like, hey, it's okay if you can't get everything in this week. Focus on this and you'll be fine. And it's like amazing having someone who takes that decision away and then also provides a little bit of reassurance that even if it's not perfect, it's still like plenty.
Do you feel like watching my marathon build around the same time and then you building up for Unbound, and this is the 3rd year we've done this, what do you feel is the biggest difference between running builds and biking builds, like ultra endurance, 12 to 14 hour events, and then the difference between biking and running? Like for me, I want to say it's more like running has to be more structured, more detailed, but it also could just be that I'm more structured and more detailed.
No, I think they're both structured and detailed. I would say they're equivalent in that way. I think cycling like the fundamental difference between cycling and running is there's no coasting in running. So it's hard to compare marathon to like 200-mile bike race because they're also very different time domains. But biking, it always comes down to time on the bike because you have to account for that kind of like the normalized power. You have to account for the time where you're not doing anything, where you're coasting. So the adaptation that you get on the bike is different versus the adaptation that you get from running. It's way easier to eat on a bike. To eat, like the nutrition I find is much more straightforward biking than with running. Even if you were to look at an 8-hour, like an ultra duration, ultra distance run event, that's around 8 to 10 hours. I would say the primary difference, aside from the running just being more difficult and like time on your feet being more difficult than time on a bike, the nutrition is much more difficult when you're on your feet versus when you're on the bike.
Okay.
But with that said, it's also like, I would say it's harder to go there on a bike. Like that's the it's two sides to the coin. Yeah, you have coasting and biking, so you have to account for that. But also it's really easy to mail it in on a bike. And so you almost have to, you have to pay more attention to the effort to make sure that you're putting the effort in, if that makes sense. And that was a huge thing for me early on, which I know I've talked about when I was doing so much like trainer riding, and then I would go outside and I couldn't put it together. Like I felt like I couldn't produce power and speed on the bike, but I had no problem doing it on the trainer when I was like on an erg. And then I learned there's kind of that reverse thing. So when you're on an erg and you're in erg mode specifically, the harder you pedal, the easier it feels. And that's the literal opposite of how it is to ride a bike outside. And so there's this mental disconnect that can occur with trainers specifically, but also if you only know how to produce power in one specific way, and then you get out there on the bike and it feels totally different and you're coasting and there's hills, it's hard sometimes to go there mentally because you're like, I don't know how. So you have to pay attention and you have to figure it out and you have to deal with undulation on terrain and you have to like make a choice because you can not make the choice and still be moving forward. And that option doesn't exist with running.
So in order to avoid, I want to go back to this because I think it's an important thing. Maybe we've talked about it before, but when you're on the trainer, and a lot of people do trainer rides in the winter, and some people think, well, my workouts on the trainer are better. So why not just do more trainer rides even when I can ride outside? Riding outside of erg mode on the bike erg, not the bike erg, but the bike trainer can be helpful. And that means that you have to pedal harder to get it up to the wattage. You're not held at the wattage.
Yeah.
So the
erg, like to explain erg mode in a very simple way, if you're on a smart trainer, which is a trainer that can control wattage, and that's very different than like a bike erg, which will display wattage, but you have to be the one that's inputting it. So if you're on a smart trainer that has erg mode and you have erg mode on, and your target for a workout is 160 watts, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in. It doesn't matter what your cadence is, whether it's 105 or 70, it is going to hold you on that watt output, which means that the slower you spin, the heavier it's going to feel. The faster you spin, the lighter it's going to feel because it's all constrained to that wattage. Whereas if you're not in erg mode, so if you're still on the trainer, and your workout target is 160 watts, you have to control the cadence and how much power you are putting into the pedals to stay around that 160 watt mark. The benefits of erg mode is you don't have to think about it. It's going to change the watts. You're going to ride the watts. It's brainless. It's really convenient.
Kind of like being on a treadmill.
Yeah, exactly.
You get on the treadmill, it's at that pace, you run at that pace, regardless of how long your stride is.
Yeah, you can turn on a movie, let you just get on the bike and you pedal. When you're not in erg mode, you have to pay attention to it. And so there's a level of engagement that you don't have to deal with otherwise.
So you have to manage your output with cadence and power to hit the wattage that it's prescribing.
Yeah.
And so that requires, and you have to be paying attention to what the workout is saying you need to be doing.
Yeah. So you have to stay engaged with it. And there are pros and cons to both. There are also times when erg mode, like you might be doing like a zone 6 workout where you're pedaling up to like 400 watts. And in my experience, it's almost impossible to do that in erg mode because you have to be able to ramp it up. If it just locks you on 400 watts, like you're going to lock yourself out of being able to pedal the bike sometimes. And it becomes oppressively difficult, especially at the end of an interval where you just like, you're like, oh, I can't hold it. And now all of a sudden you're spinning at like 40 RPMs and you just really stuck. So yeah, it's pros and cons. And there are times when one is more appropriate than the other. But that was definitely, I mean, I used to do everything in erg mode, and I had already made the decision like ahead of hiring Kristen that one of the things that I was going to do this year was not ride in erg mode when I was on the trainer 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I didn't start riding anything in erg mode until like April when I was doing some of the, and there's two things with that. When you're out of erg mode, you get a little more fluctuation around the target. So it's mentally more difficult, but physically can also be a little bit easier. It depends on how you do with erg mode and being off. And when I went to, there were some workouts that I had from her that were really hard. And I was almost like glad that I had made that choice to not do them in erg mode, because I'm like, that would just be super hard. And then in April, when I started doing them, I would repeat some of those workouts, but now I was able to do them in erg mode. So it was also like, I made that choice because of the time of the season that I was in. And for me, it was a huge like green check mark on my fitness, because the fact that I could even do them in erg mode was like, holy moly, like that's huge from an improvement standpoint. Didn't have to knock down the intensity, didn't have to take it out of erg mode. Like, you're in good shape.
So to do these structured rides outside, to shift to outside with structured riding, how did you manage undulation, wind?
Mm-hmm.
I think for a while you didn't have a power meter.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of do that? Did it take a second to move from inside, where it's very structured, you know what you're pushing, you know that you're getting in the exact stimulus that's prescribed by your coach? Did you have to kind of be intentional about being adaptable and flexible when you got outside?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a power meter really for most of my training, because I had I had one last year, but then I had this whole debacle with getting one installed on my new bike because it had this weird spider. And so, one of the benefits of doing this for some time is I understand exactly what certain wattages should feel like. And because I didn't have a power meter or a cadence. So like, I'm kind of flying blind. But there's part of me that really liked that, because as nice as it is to have a power meter on a bike, sometimes it can be really distracting when you're doing structured rides outside. There are definitely times where I wish I had one. I do now, but that's irrelevant. So yeah, the shift outside it's going to feel different fundamentally. You're going to have terrain that goes up and down, and that is going to make hitting certain targets either very hard or impossible. So you have to have a bit of flexibility in your mindset towards it. And then really pay attention to how things feel on the bike. And that was one thing that I was really trying to work with my WeRide people to understand, was like, when you're riding efforts inside, I need you to internalize how those efforts feel. Mm-hmm. Because when you go outside, unless you have a power meter on your bike, which most people don't, you're going to have to go off that feeling. You're going to have to know what 175 watts feels like to you. And that's going to be your target. And that's how I do it. A lot of the structured rides that I did outside were the longer ones. So I have within one of those structured rides, 60 minutes at 195 watts. And so can I ride 195 watts for 60 minutes straight in Fernie? No, I can't. But I can get really close to that feeling for 60 minutes. And, there are certainly times when I'm riding above 195 watts. There are also times when I'm cruising downhill and riding well under it. But on average, I'm looking for an effort and a feeling. And I know what that feeling is, and that's how I get it. The biggest change to riding outside, and this is why, someone asked this question in WeRide, what do I do in, May when I have these structured rides, but I also really want to go ride my bike outside? I'm like, you go ride your bike outside. Like, remember what it is that you're doing here. Remember why you've selected this. And you've selected it not so that you can get really fit on a trainer. It's so that you can go ride your bike, because riding bikes is really fun. And there is absolutely no substitution for getting on an actual bicycle and riding outside. That is what will make you a better bike rider. Can you take advantage of indoor training? Yeah, for sure. Especially if you live in the Northern Hemisphere. or I guess on either extreme, where you experience winter. But, you know, and we were talking with Rebecca Rush about this, or I was, there's so much benefit in going outside, because not only does it help with your skills on the bike, and this is all types of biking, like go fat biking, but also like go cross country skiing. Like there are things that are just as good as developing fitness as being on a trainer, that will also help you develop skill and athleticism and mobility, that are super important when it comes time to actually ride a bike. And ask anyone who did Unbound this year if they felt like bike handling was important. And they're going to tell you that, yes, bike handling was supremely important this year. And you don't get bike handling when you're on a trainer, unless you have rollers, which like that, if you have rollers, that's a different conversation. Yeah. Almost nobody uses rollers.
Yeah.
Yeah. If someone was using rollers on Reride, tell me, because I need to send you a trophy.
Okay. This is the last question I have, and that will transition us into the day of Unbound. Last year, we did a podcast in September where we discussed some of the troubles that we've had as partners, our relationship, and the toll that took on you and your training. This year, did you feel like you had a better mental and emotional state and more energy to kind of hit training more consistently, to have more energy in workouts, to just kind of prioritize that in a little bit more? And did having a coach kind of help you do that?
Yeah, I mean, without airing out all of our laundry, yes. I made some choices and have been working on boundaries, like emotionally, and like prioritizing myself and understanding what my needs are, and I'm putting those first. So yeah, I don't think I missed very many training rides this season on account of conflict that we were in. So that's a huge improvement. And I felt like, you know, unlike Leadville and RPI last year, where I was dealing with a level of fitness that I was fundamentally unhappy with, I had fitness that I was super happy with, and I felt that on the bike. You know, do I wish that things could have been different, a little different? Yeah. Like I mean, you know, in the most ideal circumstance, I would have done more strength training. Like I would have held on to that. But I was really trying to stay tuned in with where my energy level was, and where I felt my bandwidth was. And, I tapered back strength training significantly to prioritize the bike. And part of that was because I really didn't want to be in pain this year. And that's something that I notice. And I think it's because, and I'm not going to say this is the case for everybody, but I think my strength base is enormous. So for me to actually create adaptation in strength training, I have to lift so much. Like weight. I'm not talking about so much volume. I'm talking about like the load on the bar has to be so high. And when, you know, week after week, I'm back squatting like 230, 240, 250 pounds, deadlifting close to 300. Like if that's my strength training, which it has to be to maintain, my body just hurts. And same thing for upper body stuff. And so I made the decision to pull back on that really early in the process to see if I could feel better on the bike. And I did. Like that worked exactly like I wanted it to. The interesting thing is like my upper body is what I pulled back on first, because I hate that feeling of shoulder pain and neck pain on the bike. And that went away right away, but so did my upper body. So I'm actually pretty small right now.
You're still a unit.
Yeah, but my upper body's really quite small, and that's fine. I can get that back. But that was an interesting decision, and it was interesting to see it play out the way that it did, even though there's part of me that was like, that is like, you're going to have to, like, you really have some work to do in the gym, which is fine. I've done that before. You know, most ideal world, I wouldn't have to do that, but it's just kind of the physiological situation that I'm in.
Yeah, I think that was important to highlight, not just the managing your energy with workouts, but also emotionally and setting boundaries, because even though we can sit here and say, oh, yeah, we're like sub-elite athletes and having success, I think everyone, and probably to a degree elite athletes, are always managing these other stressors in their life. Like, how do you balance other types of training? How do you balance family and relationships? And all of that stuff does contribute to how training goes and how a race goes. And
especially in cycling, like even professional cyclists, like you're not making NFL money. Like you're not making funny money. You're not making enough money where like you can outsource literally everything in your life. So you have also to take on life stress and, you know, travel booking and cooking your food and all of this stuff that maybe, you know, uber elite professional athletes don't have to do. So, yes. And I think that scales up and down to any ability that chooses to do endurance sports.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for sharing. Okay, let's move on. Tell us about the actual day, maybe the couple days leading in. Weather was obviously a big thing. Give us the lowdown. I think everyone wants to hear this.
Yeah, so I feel like the weather is such a tired storyline now, but it was, I tried really hard not to look at the weather like, I don't know, 2 weeks before. People were already talking about it. I'm like, you can't look at the weather 2 weeks before, it's going to change. But we were getting closer and it was looking like more and more variable. Like, and by variable, I mean stormy and wet. And if you don't know, when it rains at Unbound, especially on the South course, which is the course that we were racing this year. So Unbound, it was the 20th year anniversary and the year where they flipped the course. So you ride 2 years on the North, 2 years on the South. So we're back on the South course this year. And the South course is where a lot of the really famous sections are. And so the route this year was kind of a best of the South course. And so when it rains on the South course, it doesn't drain. You're not near rivers, like you're not near a riverbed. So it's like infamously bad at draining. And it turns into this sort of like peanut butter, really sticky mud because you're just in like red clay kind of pasture area. So that's everyone's fear, is that happens. And so, yeah, about, I don't know, a week out, we were sort of looking at the weather. And I'm like, I don't know, it's looking sus. And so I had decided, because tire choice becomes like uber relevant. And so I had decided to bring a backup set of wheels and tires. And I was like, look, like what's going to happen is that I'm going to go through the trouble of having these tires mounted, you know, packing a wheel bag in addition to 2 bike bags, and then it's going to be fine. So like all I have to do is go to this excessive level of preparation for the weather, and then it's not going to be a problem.
Murphy's Law.
Yeah. And so I was kind of joking with Kristen about that. And she was like, it's going to be worth it. Everyone's going to be thanking you. So I brought a spare set of wheels and tires. You know, we get down there and it's like, we got tricked, I got to say. It was looking like rain the whole week, which if it had rained the whole week, I don't know what that would have been like. But every day that we were down there, we got there on Tuesday, I think into Emporia on Wednesday. Every day it was supposed to rain and then ended up being lovely. No rain. Supposed to rain, no rain. Supposed to rain, no rain. And I guess to spoil it, even on like Friday, so the race is on Saturday. So Friday, supposed to rain, doesn't rain. And then we go to bed and I think we're all feeling, you know, pretty chuffed about the whole situation. Even, you know, Kristen was doing the media for the 350. She wasn't racing this year. And she like, I don't know, it was like a midnight update or something. And she's basically like, which we watched the next morning because we had gone to sleep, you know, no rain in sight kind of a thing, looking really dry, looking really nice. And then the next story literally was said, commentators curse. And it was just downpouring. And this was at, I think, around 2 a.m., maybe 1:30. And so, yes, Friday night is when the rain showed up. Saturday early morning. And so that was a pretty devastating update to wake up to on Saturday. We were trying to like get ready to race, but I guess did that answer your question did you ask about the weather? Did I just go into the weather?
I just want the whole lowdown on the day, so you're on track.
Yeah. So, you know, at that point, what are you going to do, right? You're going to ride. And we had...
I wouldn't have, but...
You're going to go do your best. And it wasn't raining on us. So I was kind of thinking, okay, so the 350, it's at like 2 a.m. They're a ways away from town, from like Emporia. So it's also possible that it didn't actually rain that much near Emporia. I don't know. And I have no idea how to check this. And also, what does it matter? So I leave on, at that point, I had my Continental Terra Speeds mounted, which is not the treadiest tire, not the grippiest tire. But I was like, I would rather just go for a fast tire and, do my best in the mud. It ended up being a phenomenal mud tire, by the way. We'll talk about that. But yeah, so I get everything ready. I had prepped my nutrition. We had gotten, so there were 3 aid stations on the course. And so basically you were going to meet me in 3 different places. So the first aid station was at around mile, I think maybe 55. The second aid station was at around mile 50 or at mile 100. And then the third one was maybe like 160. Mm-hmm. So we had basically set like 3 different kind of aid station bags. So everything that I needed nutrition wise, supplements, Tylenol, chamois butter, whatever. Each aid station had its own bag because we're professionals now. We know what we're doing. All the fluids and bladders and bottles and stuff were made the night before. So literally it's like, I huck off the stuff that I don't need, bottles on the bike. Here's your pack. Here are your pills. Here are your gels. Do you need chamois butter? Do we need to clean the chain? And then I'm off.
I mean, it does help now that I'm definitely more prepared for gravel. So we basically have 2 of everything. Mm-hmm. Like we have 2 Velocio like water packs, 2 of the same pairs of sunglasses. So it was really easy to be like, here are my sunglasses. And then I would clean the pair you gave me and have them fresh for the next. It was super, super efficient.
Yeah. So everything just kind of rotates. And that worked super well. But so yeah, we were super prepared. And so we stayed right in Emporia. It's like a maybe 10-minute bike ride to the start line. So I rode off and got to the start area kind of right as the pros were going off. So pros start around 6 a.m. and then the age groupers, me, start at 6:30. So got there, got warmed up, you got parked, got situated. Like it was a pretty low key start, like very uneventful. My bike was working, which wasn't the case last year. Didn't drop a chain. And I take off and it's dry. So really the question is like, when are we going to hit mud? And so there's a section on the course that is called the Mud Marathon. And it's called the Mud Marathon because in 2023, which was the last really muddy year, also on the South Course, this was the area, and it's like within the first 6 miles, that just like flattened the group. And it was so muddy, like the pros were off the bikes running through the mud or through the fields. It was not rideable. And so that was, I think, everyone's kind of litmus test for what the course might be like and how bad it was actually going to be. So when we got to the Mud Marathon point, it was still rideable. It was like mucky. It was slippery, but it was manageable because you could kind of pick your way through it. And this was kind of when I was like, oh yeah, bike handling is definitely going to be a thing. Because when I say rideable, it was rideable. I was riding it. Other people were riding it, but not everyone could ride it. So there were a lot of people coming off their bikes just because it was slippery and kind of rocky and technical. But all fine for a while. And then it dried up a little after that. And then it started raining. Probably within the first 30 to 45 minutes, it started raining and we got into terrain where it had rained. And so now it's getting really muddy and really wet and it's raining quite hard. And so everybody's like, all chit chatty and happy. And then it just gets quiet. And so my strategy, my plan for the first 100 mile was to just be in groups and try to be really smart with the wheels that I was on. And so it's a little hard right at the beginning because it's hard to tell because the surging and the pushing and the fall, it's hard to tell who is going to be like actually a good wheel to get on and what group's going to be reliable. But I found a good one pretty early on. The downside is when it's muddy like that and you're on a wheel, you're just like taking it to the face. And so I couldn't see anything. Like because my plan originally from start to aid station 1, so 50-ish mile, 55, was to only do a hydration pack and no bottles. And then last minute, because I was like, I don't know, it might be muddy. I might want a bottle of water to like clean my chain. I had thrown a bottle on the bike. So the first 50 miles, at least I had a bottle that I could grab and like spray on my face to get the mud off of my glasses periodically. But unless I was doing that like on repeat, like I was just going to have to deal with not being able to see a whole lot. And there are some tires that fling mud way worse than others. And it seemed like I was always on a wheel of someone who had one of those tires. So all in all though, felt pretty good. There was only one time. So like the risk with mud, when it gets on your tires and it starts caking, and this is why they give out paint sticks at Unbound. This is why Tire Talk is super valid ahead of a race like this, is if your wheel starts picking up mud and it doesn't shed the mud gets wedged in between your wheel and your frame. It gets wedged into your derailleur, like your front derailleur. It gets caked up into your rear derailleur. And then what can happen there is you basically just tear your derailleur apart. That's the biggest risk to mud, is not to like damaging your frame, breaking your chain, although that can happen. It's that you just tank your derailleur.
The most expensive part of the bike.
Yeah.
And arguably one of the most important parts of the bike.
Yeah.
The derailleur is what your chain goes on. It's the shifter, essentially.
Yeah, in the rear. It shifts up and down the rear cassette.
So if your derailleur isn't working, you really are on basically a single speed bike, or you can't pedal.
Yeah. And I saw, early on, you saw people off their bikes with it flipped upside down with a scraper, with bottles, trying to get mud like out of their frame and off of their drivetrain.
Drivetrain being?
Derailleur's chain.
Okay.
And I was being pretty ginger with I was like trying to go around deep mud. I was trying to, if there was a water crossing, I would try to go through it just to get mud off of my frame. But I wasn't picking up mud. And I think that partially like those tires, the Continental Terrace beads, even though they're super low tread and like not they're not meant for mud. Like they're not grippy. But like, it's not like I'm going up and down and through crazy terrain. I'm going pretty much in a straight line. So as long as I'm moving, it's okay. But because they're like, because they're not super high tread, there's nowhere for the mud to get stuck. Mm-hmm. So they just it was almost an irrelevant detail. There was like a moment where like I heard my rear derailleur start shifting itself. And that's like the, hey, orange flag here. There's something up with your derailleur. And I looked back and it had some mud in it, but it was so minimal. I just grabbed the water bottle off my bike and like aimed it back at my rear and just like sprayed it while I was riding, fixed the problem.
Pro move.
It was a pro move. I was like, I really don't want to get off this bike because I don't want to put my feet in the mud, which what a silly thing to be worried about in hindsight. But it was kind of funny. So like Continental makes these tires, the Dubnatals, which are like the tire du jour right now. They're great tires. I run them on my cross country bike. But they are notoriously bad in mud. And I know this because I have ridden them in mud. So you want to talk about a tire that doesn't clear? That's the Dubnatal. And it was, it's not funny. There was the number of people I saw with their bikes flipped upside down that I looked over and I just saw like Dubnatal. And I'm like, you guys, you should have done some research on this tire.
But some people like, you're lucky because you have a spare set of tires because they came off my bike or wheels. Uh-huh. We also have we don't have kids. Most of our expendable income is on biking and sports.
Oh yeah.
So it's easy for us to buy. Plus we have contacts with Continental. Mm-hmm. So it's easy for us to just be like, oh, we want these different tires. Whereas, there's a lot of people out there who bikes are not cheap.
Oh no.
And maintaining them isn't cheap. So
yeah.
to be buying all this extra equipment, like it's not,
I know.
It's not and just spend an extra $250.
I don't want to trivialize that at all.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it. Because that's a huge factor for like most people who are out there. Mm-hmm. Is the cost to do this sport, which is extravagantly high. But
yeah,
a lot of the people that I was looking at are like the high, fast amateurs, the gear junkies.
If you have a $10,000 bike, you should probably have
a different set of just like put different tires on if you're not sure. But with that said, Dylan Johnson, who's one of the, the most probably, he's super popular on YouTube. He's a pro racer. He's like a data nerd. He also made the Dubnatal mistake. And I'm like, dude, how did you not know? Anyways. Yeah. So I saw you at mile 50. I was feeling really good, moving really well, swapped out bottles. I think at that point I had gone water in my pack and then carbs in bottles. That was a planned change that we made. That ended up being a little bit of a mistake because then I no longer had bottles to clear my glasses. And so that just was like an annoying thing. I rode for a lot longer during that second stretch with dirty glasses, just because like the process of cleaning them was I had to take them off my face. I had to put them in my mouth, and then I had to get water from my pack in my mouth, take the glasses off my face, spit on the glasses,
Yeah.
put them back on. And like, you think that you can aim really well when you can't. So like I would do it and I would miss, and I'm like, ugh, put the glasses back on, get more water, take them back off. And the problem is like, you don't want to not ride with glasses, because I made that mistake in Fernie last year, and that will just like, I mean, that destroys your eyes. And this race was going to be much longer, and there was so much poo on the course that like you would just end up with pink eye. There's absolutely no other really outcome besides pink eye.
Okay, because you're in farmland.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was fine. It was all manageable.
So how did you protect your mouth from poo going in it?
I didn't, which is another story we'll get to. But
so from a spectator standpoint or a support standpoint, watching the athletes come through, especially the elite group, because they're in a group, and they're like in a group of 10 to 20, especially early on. They were completely covered in mud. You couldn't tell who was who or any color, because everyone was completely brown, like head to toe.
Yeah.
You couldn't even see faces because it was just mud.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, like, I wore a like coral orange jersey so you could see me, and I'm like, well, that's not going to matter.
I have never been so happy to not be doing something.
Yeah, JOMO, joy of missing out. The weather from mile 50 to 100 was outrageous. I mean, it was like torrential downpouring, thunderstorming. At one point, there was, and like, this is, mind you, I can't see anything. So I'm like, I know that there's really bad weather. At some point it was hailing. I was like, I can't see it. I don't know how bad it is. I don't know if there's a funnel cloud over there. It is getting kind of windy. There was a lightning bolt. And I mean, I grew up in the South. Like, I'm super familiar with thunderstorms. And there's this kind of like, usually when you see a lightning bolt, you count to like you can count the seconds, and you can estimate how far away the lightning is by how long the thunder takes to get to you after the lightning. And when they happen together, that's not good. That there was a lightning bolt that hit, and like, number one, you can always see a lightning bolt, but it's rare that it like changes your exposure. Like, it changes how bright the area is around you. So that happened. And then there was super loud right away, crack. And then this like wave of energy came off of it. And like the group that I was riding with was like pushed by warm air. That happened.
Yeah. When I was driving, I was thinking, I don't even want to drive in this. The speed limit was 70 miles an hour on the road. We were going 45 because the rain was so hard you couldn't see a thing.
Yeah.
And then the lightning. I mean, we don't get lightning like that up here. Yeah. It was scary. And I'm thinking, at least they're on rubber. Yeah. But at the same time, you're also in puddles. So I don't know if that like negates the rubber.
No.
Or what.
It doesn't negate the rubber. Yeah, it felt very important to stay on the bike for sure. But
instead of on your cleats, which are metal.
Yeah. If my feet hit the ground, I would stick my toes up. So at least my cleats weren't on the ground.
Right.
Anyways, yeah, so the weather was pretty horrendous. At some point, it just became like lock in on the front wheel or lock in on the wheel in front of you, like hope that whoever is riding up front can see, and just like try not to fall over or crash.
So at aid station 2, 100 miles in, that was when you first peed in your chamois.
Yeah. So first of all, I PR'd my 100 mile by like not an insignificant amount in those conditions. So I'm super happy about that.
Testament to your fitness.
But that was when I was like, hey, I do kind of have to pee. And I think I asked like, where are the porta potties? And you're like, oh, they're way over there. And I'm thinking like, that is going to really like drag out this aid station. And so then I was like, maybe I just go over to a bush. And then I was like, or I just like do the pro thing and pee in my chamois. And I'm like, I was soaking wet already, like mud covered. I was like, what's a little pee at this point? And so I did. I was just standing there, and I thought like, maybe if I can figure this out now, then I'll be able to do it later when I have to pee again, one more time. So yeah, it's kind of gross, but people do it. And I was like, I guess I'm like a pro now, peed in a chamois. That was when things got weird though. And not because the the chamois pee. But I took off after the second aid station, and I guess to back up and like I was on this group, and then this guy got on the front of the group. And, you know, when you're riding with a group, there's some etiquette. And one of those things is that you don't change the pace of the group significantly. So this guy got on the front, and just like he was probably riding at like 2 kilometers an hour faster than the group had been going with everyone else. But then was also like pushing, slowing down, like really inconsistent. And so that's super fatiguing. And so we were all kind of like managing that to the best of our ability. And then we make this right-hand turn to start heading towards the aid station, which was probably 10 miles out at this point. And he pulls off the group and was like, "That's all I got." Like he had popped on the front of the group.
Which is not how you're supposed to do groups.
No, like he blew himself up, but he also blew everybody else up. And so the group kind of disintegrated at that point, which was super annoying because we just turned into a headwind. And so I'm kind of like...
So for people who aren't really into biking, the reason why you like to stay in groups is because you switch off. Drafting is a really big thing in biking, if you didn't know. And so it can be helpful to work with a group of even 2 can make a big difference, where you're switching off someone doing the harder work at the front, breaking the wind. And you can switch off every minute, every 2 minutes, sometimes every 30 seconds if it's a really strong headwind. And you kind of just take turns breaking the wind, like work, rest. It's almost like intervals.
Yeah.
So if you have someone out at front pushing really hard and you're trying to keep on their wheel, then you're essentially working in an interval while having the wind broken for you.
Yeah.
So then when you have to break the wind, the fatigue starts to build.
You always want to think about the person who's about to be on the front. Yeah. And like so we had, I think, about 7 people in that group. And then it was probably like 2 to 3 minutes of riding on the front. I would ride 1 to 2 just because I'm smaller and not a dude. So that was how we did it. And then I don't know where this guy came from, but he just like got in the group and then, blew it up. And so, I mean, when you're not on the front, the person on the front is working approximately like 30 to 40% harder than everyone else in the group. But they're also benefiting, like when you have someone on your wheel, that confers an advantage to the person in the front too. Right. So it's not like, you know, it's still helpful to have people on your wheel. So, anyways, now we're all solo with like 10 miles to go. And so I was kind of like, you know, I took a minute to like eat and drink and kind of like regroup. And then I was hopping around wheels. And then this was so frustrating. The only wheel I could end up getting on was the guy who blew the group up. And he did the same shit for 10 miles. And I was like, I actually hate you. You are the worst bike rider I have ever seen. Eventually I got so frustrated that I just peeled off and like waited. I was going to wait for somebody else just to come up but nobody came. So I probably rode the last 3 miles by myself. So after I was a little bit fatigued coming into 100 just because that had happened. And that's just exhausting to do. And so I took off basically to ride the third segment. So 100 through 155. And, the sun was starting to come out. It wasn't raining as much, but this is where the water crossings were. So if you've seen pictures of Unbound this year, like you probably saw a couple of very deep water crossings, like up to your like hip, like people were carrying their bikes over their heads. Great opportunity to pee, by the way. So, there were 3 of those. And, there was one that was so deep, I was like kind of trudging along and I felt my hamstring kind of cramp and I was like, oh, okay, it's good. So after we like cleared those, we're kind of riding and through this sort of like swampy area climbing up. And this was an area, it was like marginally rideable. Like it was most people were walking. I walked for a little bit, but there were sections where you could like hop on your bike and ride. And then there was this one where like there was kind of a swamp off to the left. It was really mucky on the right, but I was like, I'm pretty sure I can ride the grass line in the middle because it was raised. It was quite narrow, but it looked dry. So I was like, I'm going to try to ride the grass because that'll be way faster than walking through the mud. And so I'm like, I'm like riding the grass line, kind of like pulling away. And I don't know, this guy probably saw me do that and hopped in behind me and then tried to, I think, go around me on the right to pass. But like I said, the where the tire tracks were on this road were not super rideable. Like it was just too slick. So he kind of comes around me on the right, gets a little bit ahead of me, and then clearly has to get off his bike because he gets stuck. As he unclips from his bike, I'm riding by in the middle. He sticks his foot in my rear wheel, like just right in the wheel. And when he does that, it stops me from moving. But then also this fucking like swamp was on the left now. Like it was a full on swamp. And so he like kicked me into the swamp with my bike, me and my bike into the swamp. And I was like, what the, like kind of like yelled, but he just like took off, like kept going.
Yeah.
And
fled the scene.
Yeah. But I was like kind of literally like stuck in the mud. Like my feet were still clipped in. So I'm like trying to like wrestle my feet out, eventually get out of the mud, kind of like, you know, wash myself off with some of my water, spray off my bike, keep going. But like there was now a noise, but I'm like, it's probably just dirt like in the free hub or something. It's gonna be fine. And so I kind of ride out of the swampy area, get onto the road. There's some rollers, and now I'm kind of like climbing up this false flat, going probably approximately like, I don't know, 16 or 17 kilometers an hour. And my whole bike seizes, stops rolling. I'm not like tires skidding. We are not moving anymore. And so I go over the bars, more or less. Like it was lucky that I wasn't going super fast. But I definitely got bucked off the bike. And then like, okay, fine. I land on my back on the inReach, which hurt. So I get up and I'm like, I go over to my bike, I'm like, okay, what's happened here? So I go to spin the cranks, like they won't spin. Like it's stuck. I thought there was originally something wrong with the brake. So I'm like, I don't really know what to do. And we're now in like full sun exposure. So we had come out of the like shaded area after, like this was a ways after that. So I have no shade to get into. It's getting hot. I'm covered in mud and my bike is broken. And so I'm like kind of, you know, looking at it. And then this guy eventually comes by and stops. And he was going to get some water anyways. And he's like, I used to be a mechanic. Like, what's going on? I was like, it's seized. Like, it's not moving. I sort of like punted me off. Like, this happened a few miles ago, the swamp story. And he's like, oh, I think it's your bottom bracket. And was kind of looking at
bottom bracket is
where your cranks go through the frame,
where your pedals attach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so
I know this. I'm just for the listeners.
Yeah. He's like, it might have like some, you know, mud or something in it. Could have been that the bearings cracked. And so basically like I would, you know, do this, spray it with some water. And I proceed to start to spray the bottom bracket with my water, like the only water that I have, and end up using basically all of it. So my entire bladder to clean off the bottom bracket and the derailleur and stuff. And I get it to the point where it's now like it will spin. So I'm like, okay, great. This takes probably, I don't know, 10 minutes. So I'm back on the bike. The guy had peeled off and it's moving. I'm like, okay, good. But then I realized kind of right away, whenever I would push down and try to put power, like above a certain amount on the pedals, it would be like, and it would disengage. So there was like something going on. So I was like slipping. Mm-hmm. And so I could really only ride, I didn't have a power meter on, so I don't know what the power was, but I had to really manage that pace. And so it was tricky because I was trying to like hop onto groups, but whenever I'd try to like catch them, I would just couldn't stay on. So I was like, I'm going to have to like do this whole segment by myself, which sucks because now it's like hot and I don't have any water. So I lucked out because eventually, probably like 20 minutes later, this pair comes by and it's these two dudes. And I think they were having like some issues too, but they were riding at like the perfect pace for me because I could get on their wheel and it would only like intermittently kind of like, and I could always get back. And their bikes are making terrible noise too. So I'm like,
everyone's
you're probably having it.
It was actually really scary to see people ride off, looking down at their derailleurs and being like, I guess this is just what it is going to be like.
Let's see what it does. But I just started feeling so bad because I was like very dehydrated and very hot, and my stomach was starting to go off. I think because I was very dehydrated and very hot, but I was still peeing a lot. Like it was it's really in my chamois. It was super weird. At one point, like, I mean, it was getting hot. And I was covered in mud. So I don't think my skin was breathing very well. There was like a neutral water station with like these like cold bottles of water. So I grabbed one, took a sip of it, immediately threw it up. I was like, great. This is great. Kind of limped my way to the aid station. And it was, I think from the time that I was stopped fixing my bike to when I saw you at the aid station was probably about 2 hours. So 2 hours in the hottest part of the day with no water. That's what happened to me. So I get there and I'm in so much pain. Like my stomach is just not hurt. It's not feeling good. My body's not feeling good. My bike is not working.
You had sent me a text message probably when you were stopped.
Yeah.
And it said, my back and my bike are effed.
Yeah. Well, I think when I landed on my back, when I landed on the inReach, it gave me a Charlie horse and like my erector, like one of my QLs, because it like something about that immediately caused my back to seize
Well,
up.
I think also too, riding with that stress of not knowing if your bike was going to seize can be scary. And that was probably causing you to tense up as well.
That was
Plus,
true.
you've been having some lower back problems on the bike when you ride for long distances at intensity.
Yeah.
So it's probably a combination.
Yeah, there
not
was
to
a
mention the hydration issues.
real fear factor for that period of time of like, you know, there were times when I was cruising downhill at like 35K, 40K an hour. And you're just kind of like, oh, I
That's
really
scary.
like hope this doesn't happen right now. It's just stressful. Yeah. So I get there and I see you and I pull up to the truck and you're like, what do you need? And I was like, I think I need a minute. Like, relax. My bike is fucked. And you were like, I think you were like, what do you want me to take it to the mechanic? Because they have neutral mechanics at these aid stations. And I was like, no, I don't want you. Just give me a minute. And I think at some point I said, like, I'm just really not feeling good. Like, I was having some heat stroke, I think. I was like, I kind of want the bike. I kind of want this to be the reason that I'm done today. Because it was a hard day.
Mm-hmm.
I was like over it. And this is so the third aid station was Council Grove, which we're familiar with because that's always been an aid station for us. And the good thing about Council Grove is like there's plenty of shade. And so I think you were like, well, you had seen Kristen, my coach, also at the aid station. And you're like, do you want me to go get Kristen? And I think I said yes.
You said no.
I said no. I don't think I said anything. I was like, I'm just going to go lay down.
You didn't really.
Yeah. I'm just going to go lay under the tree for a minute and cool off because I was super hot. And then, Kristen came over. I don't think you had actually found her yet. She must have just saw me like laying in the grass, being pathetic.
Well, because I'm here like, okay, she wants to quit. I don't want to be the one to tell her, okay, or you need to keep going. Like, I don't want to be, there's like a tricky dynamic when you're someone's support, but you're also their spouse. And I've learned from skiing to not tell you when you're good for it or when you're not, because I don't know.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to and this is so dumb because I don't think you'd ever you don't want to do the wrong thing and have it backfire. Like if I were like, no, you have to get on your bike and then you keep going and then something happens, I would feel bad. You might be kind of ticked, whatever.
Yeah. So
then, Kristen found you. Mm-hmm. I was just trying to be like, whatever you need.
Switzerland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I mean, I don't know if I'm downplaying it. I was feeling cooked, body, brain, bike. I was feeling bad. And so, Kristen came over and she was like, what's going on? And so I think I told her what had happened and the bike. And she was like, what if, she's like, Nick is here. Nick's her husband. Nick will take it over to the mechanic to have a look at it and see what's up with the bottom bracket. So he takes the bike off and I'm like, okay, well, you're just going to need a new bottom bracket. So I don't know if you have another bottom bracket, then you can put that in. But I was kind of the bike is done. The bike is done.
Quit at that point.
Therefore, I'm not going to ride a bike that's that broken for the rest of this race.
In your mind, the day was over.
Yeah. And so we're kind of talking. She's like, what do you need? And I was like, I just my stomach. And she's like, I'll be right back. She comes back and she's got a non-alcoholic Corona. She's like, this seems really weird, but it's some carbs. It's not sweet. It's a little bit bubbly, not super bubbly. She's like, these are kind of what I want and what works for me. So just try it. And so I started drinking this non-alcoholic Corona, which actually was magic. It didn't bring me all the way back, but it did feel nice to have something that I didn't feel like I was immediately going to throw up. And then I had some pretzels and cleaned off the mud from my body so my skin could breathe. I probably sat there for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. And then Nick rolls up and he was like, good news, your bike's fine. And I was like, fuck. So I guess it was maybe the free hub, not the bottom bracket, or maybe some combination, but the free hub is probably what sees, which kind of makes sense.
The free hub is part of your wheel that connects to your bike.
Yeah,
the middle
where
of the wheel.
Cassette is.
Yeah.
Which in hindsight, that noise, I'm like, that's a free hub noise, but my brain. So I guess they pulled the free hub apart, cleaned it, repacked it, put it back together. And so at this point, it's probably been like 25 minutes. And
for me, on my end, I'm like, there's part of me that's kind of excited because I'm like, ooh, like I've been spending the whole day alone. Like, it'll be nice to have company on the way back home. But then I'm like, it's not going to be great company. She's going to be really bummed. So then Kristen was like, well, what does she need right now? This was away from you. And I was like, what she needs is for you to tell her to keep going because I can't do it, but you can. And I think she was like, okay. But Kristen never told you to keep going.
No, it was like, it was like a very phenomenal display of like really good coaching.
Yeah.
Because it was, what do you need? Okay, I'm going to do this. Like basically doing all of the things that need to be done to get me back on the bike without saying like, you can do it.
Yeah.
You're going to do it.
She left the decision up to you.
Yeah, but there's some confidence that comes from seeing someone who's so experienced, like just go through the motions for you. Because it's like, well, I guess she thinks I can do it. So I guess I'll just do it.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it got, when the bike came back and the bike was okay, I was like, all right, so here's the thing now. It's no longer the bike. Like this is now me. And like, I can't be that person. Like if there's not a good reason for me to not continue, then I'm going to have to continue. And I figured at that point, I have to go in the direction of Emporia, which is west. And, I'll just pedal. I'll just get on the bike and I will move my feet and I will see what happens. And the worst thing that happens is I get 10 or 15 minutes into this next leg and I have to pull out because something's gone wrong.
But at least you tried.
Yeah. And so that's what I did. Like you changed everything out, cleaned things up, cleaned me up. I got on my bike and I headed out of Council Grove. And it took some time. Like it wasn't like rejuvenated. It probably took a good 20 minutes for me to feel like my brain was back online. Like I wasn't cooked from the inside out. I felt some, like I was eating, I felt some like energy come back. And then probably like 30 minutes into that. So it was really like a 2.5 to 3 hour stint that I was going to have to do. And so about probably 30 to 40 minutes into that, I felt like I had some pace starting to come back. And part of that was the terrain had been like gradually climbing out of Council Grove and it flattened out into these rollers that I actually like really love because I ride them every year. And they're technical. There's like some rocky descending, like rock gardens. So I felt like my brain kind of came on for that. And yeah, I got some pace back. And I was like, okay, so we have some legs. And then, I was riding with a couple of groups and was pulling intermittently and just felt like I was able to hold like a good clip and that I was actually like speeding up. And then probably the last like 20 miles, I was really speeding up. So after the Kahola Lake, I think, after that climb, which is kind of the last significant climb on the course, it really is just like flat rolly into town. And that was like, okay, you can push now because you have like, 20 miles left. You have a little bit over an hour. Like one of my goals that I told Kristen was to cross the line, like cross the finish line and feel like I had emptied the tank. And so I'm like, this is where you empty the tank. Even if you really don't want to empty the tank, like this is where you do it because this is where you can make up some time. And so I did. I kind of rode an all out like last hour. And I don't know what my pace was for the last hour, but I think it was probably around 20 miles an hour. Pretty quick. And part of that was there was a really quick group that ended up riding up with me. And I was also very encouraged by looking around at the people that I was with and seeing like, these are good bike riders that I'm with. Like these are people who are good at gravel biking. They're fit. Like I haven't lost anything here. Like it's a slower day than I wanted, but it's a slower day for everybody. So don't lament the time. The time is not going to be what you expect, but like, where did the expectation for a time come from? It's 200 miles in Kansas. So, yeah, I ended up connecting with a group of like 8 to 10 people that were really motoring, and I motored with them, pulled for a bit, and just blasted into town. And it was really remarkable. Like I was reflecting on it even as it was happening. Like I can't believe I came back from that. I can't believe I was that messed up and that cooked, and I came back and now doing this. Like it was, yeah, I just never had it happen before. I've heard about it. I've heard about what you can come back from, but it's a totally different thing to experience it. I gotta say. Yeah. I'm truly remarkable. No, I don't mean that. It is truly remarkable what you can recover from if you are willing to do it and to try and to be patient and pace yourself and like let your body come back.
Yeah, I think the key from watching from the outside was that there was no, and props to Kristen for this, there was no like, okay, we need to get you back on the bike. You only have this many miles. She wasn't talking about the ultimate goal that you wanted to achieve in that moment. It was what can you do right now? Can you take a sip of this non-alcoholic beer? Can you have a pretzel? Can you wipe yourself off? Like it was these very, very small things that that progress you towards getting to the goal.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like she wasn't overwhelming you with, you only have 40 more miles. You only have 3 more hours. You need to get to the finish line. It was what can you do in this moment right now? Can you wipe your face? You know, can you lie down? Can you take a couple deep breaths? Like take a second. There was no rushing. It was what is one more thing that you can do. And I think that really is a lot of our messaging,
mm-hmm.
just in practice in a very acute moment, which is cool. It's like, you don't think about the end goal. Think about the process.
Yeah.
Think about what you can do in this moment that will progress you forward, even though it doesn't seem like a lot.
Yeah. And it's like, it makes so much sense because number one, I know what the end goal is. I know how much time there is. I know how much distance there is. What I don't know is how that's going to feel. But if like we start talking about it, I'm going to start making assumptions about how it's going to feel.
Yeah.
And that's not super productive because, you don't know what you don't know. And I was making the wrong assumption, clearly, because when I actually got out there, I ended up feeling great at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. You can sit there and think, well, what's one sip of non-alcoholic beer going to do? But if you can get a sip down, then you might be able to get 2 sips down.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 5 minutes, you have half a can down. And that's, maybe only 20 grams of carbs or 20 calories, but it's like, it's one step forward.
And it gets someone out of their head where it's like, you're focusing. I don't remember what I was focusing on, but I wasn't in the moment. So you can assume that someone would be focusing on what went wrong or what might go wrong. Like they might be thinking about like, oh, I'm such a failure. Like I'm not going to do it. Like they're just thinking about all of these things that aren't helpful, where it's like, what I need you to think about is like drinking this beer.
Yeah. I also wonder if the fact that you had it in your head that your bike was broken almost helped you to reduce, like it would reduce the stress and the pressure in those 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't like, oh, I have to keep going. It was like, well, I'm not going to keep going anyway. So like, I'm just going to relax for a second and try to feel better because I want to feel better.
Yeah. Like regardless of the outcome. But it's like, for me, the broken bike was like, it's a noble way to end a hard day. There's nobility in a broken equipment that happens to professional riders.
Yeah.
When the equipment is no longer broken, there's not any nobility in just being like, I don't want to because it's hard. Mm-hmm. Which like, okay, if there are actually things wrong, like you should take that seriously. But for me, I was just in a lot of pain. And, it's you're pedaling a bicycle. Like, I think I wrote in my post, like, it's just a bike. Like, you're not dying. So stop riding it like you're dying. Just move.
There are some people who did quit. And mm-hmm. I think it's important to note that there are different reasons why people ride bikes and enter these races. And there are some people who do it because they enjoy riding their bike and they're signing up for a very enjoyable Unbound experience, to be with the community, to be riding in the sun, to have a good day. And then if that's not that day, quitting is reasonable. I did that at the Fernie gravel grind. Yep. I don't ride a bike to suffer through it. That's just not why I ride bikes. That's not the challenge I choose in my life. Yep. I can run in that, but I'm not going to ride in it. For you, though, that's not why you ride bikes. Sometimes it is, but you had signed up to complete Unbound. Yeah. You had put in a lot of effort to cross the finish line, regardless of what your time was, to empty the tank, to make it a hard day. Yeah. And I think that had you not kept going, even if your bike had broken, it would have been a huge disappointment.
Yeah, I think in the moment I would have felt relief with the broken bike. I think and reflection, I would have been really, really bummed out.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I always want to ride the race that I will be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And even though that would have been completely outside of my control, that would not have been something that I would have been proud of.
Yeah.
I don't like the way that looks. Like I am ultimately willing to pay the price to see that goal through. But that doesn't mean that that's the right thing for everybody. And it's like, if that's going to cost you your experience, your happiness, potentially your safety, potentially your health. Like I got very sick the week after Unbound because of all the mud and the cow manure that ended up in my body, which I'm not the only one who ended up very sick the week
Gross.
after.
You're really selling Unbound.
There is a real cost to it. There's a financial cost to it. And you have to understand where your red line is. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with being like, you know what, this is no longer for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. Like you can make that choice. It's still a hard day. And there are still moments in there. I mean, I say I wouldn't have been proud. I would have been, and I am ridiculously proud of that 100-mile split. Like that's the thing that I'm like, I crushed that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's, it's all relative. And I think it brings me to a really good and important point, and something that I do want to call attention to, because I think it's like, it's relevant for so many people. Like biking is expensive. And I mean, everyone who we were down there with ended up like your bike got messed up, whether you're riding the 100 or the 50 or the 200, like that much mud is not good for bikes. And, everybody went to the mechanic. I mean, I did my bottom bracket was messed up. And I think that was part of what happened. But, that bike that I have is a very expensive top of the, like, cannot buy a better bike from Trek. And it has a custom ceramic bearing bottom bracket in it that, I mean, it's like a $500 or $600 bottom bracket, and it is destroyed. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it warrantied. And that's one of the problems that happened to that bike. And so I think that this is a consideration that race organizers have to keep in mind. I don't, will Unbound ever change? Maybe not. It's Unbound. You know what you're getting into. But I think that there's, like, when people are paying for their equipment, they're paying for the maintenance on that equipment. They don't have an extra set of wheels to bring to mount different tires, which means they're going to pick up mud, which means they're going to wreck their derailleur. You're putting bikes through things that maybe they weren't designed for. And there's a very high dollar demand for that. I mean, travel to races isn't inexpensive. Race entry fees aren't inexpensive. And it's not necessarily intuitive for people to think like, I should budget $1,000 for my bike shop to fix my bike when I get back from a race like this. Mm-hmm. And I that's not to discourage anyone from doing it. It is a factor that you have to consider when you decide to do ultra endurance bike events.
Yeah.
And it's, that happens. Leadville last year wasn't muddy, but it was super dusty because it tends to be. And like that caused issues with my mountain bike. Mm-hmm. So it's always something. But yeah, it's just like, I don't want to trivialize the cost of racing in conditions like that, which also like, that's also a deciding factor for people to pull out when it's like, I don't want to spend $1,000 at the mechanic to fix this bike. That's not meant to be submerged.
Or like, I don't want to risk crashing if my wheel seizes up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all to say, like there's no right decision. Mm-hmm. There's the decision that's right for you. Yeah.
And it's the decision also that you made in the moment with the circumstances you were facing.
Yeah.
And the information that you had. It's so easy to look back and think, I mean, I had this with somebody I was coaching for ultra running. It's like, oh, I wish I hadn't spent so long at that aid station. Or, well, you did. And you did it because that was what you could do in that moment. That was the decision you were making with how you felt. It's easy in hindsight to say, well, I kept going. I should have started earlier. Mm-hmm. Well, you didn't know that. You know?
I mean, like it's all very clear in hindsight. But
it is.
In the moment, like you can only make the right choice is the choice you make.
Yeah.
And if you look back and have regrets, like you're basing that, like your whole assumption is based on the fact that a different choice would have been better. But you have no way to know that.
Like you didn't have the information at that time to make a different choice.
Right. Like if you'd left the aid station sooner, like you could have been in way worse physical condition.
Right.
Like you don't know where that path went, but there was a good reason why you didn't take it at the time.
Yeah.
You know, does Unbound need to change their policies around weather? I don't know how they could possibly change their policies around weather.
Because here's the thing. It's like, okay, guys, there's lightning in the area. Everyone needs to stop and find shelter.
Like there's no shelter.
Good luck.
Yeah. The best thing you can do is stay on your rubber tires, honestly.
I mean, when I used to play golf, they would blow a horn and you would go find shelter, but they had shelter for you.
Yeah.
And they would pause and make sure everyone was safe. You're also swinging a metal golf club up in the air.
Yeah. Different.
Here, the logistics of keeping everyone safe is nearly impossible. It's just part of the sport at this point.
Yeah, I mean, people talk all the time about like spirit of gravel. Like, is the spirit of gravel type 3 fun danger? Maybe not, but you know, it's Kansas in early June. Like you're gonna get weather. There's no way around it. And like if you think that you're gonna show up and it's gonna be like riding in Spain in April, like I don't know what to tell you. It's not gonna be that. But it's, you know, it is part of the experience. It's kind of like the argument is number one, they can't do anything, and should they? Like, isn't it part of the Unbound experience to have some like wacky shit happen every couple of years? Kind of. It's part of what makes it so like legendary, and I hope it doesn't scare people off. Like what my mission.
No one died.
No one died. Yeah. I want people to show up and do these hard races. I want women especially to show up and do these hard races and not let these things scare you off, because like you're not any less capable than a man out there. In fact, in all likelihood, you're going to make better choices and decisions than men do, because like our brains are superior. Like we are literally fundamentally categorically safer out there because we are biologically wired to make better decisions when risk is involved. You know, it's there's not much that they could change. I guess they could last minute change the route, but it's all muddy. It's kind of the same argument. Like, does Leadville need to extend the cutoffs to be more accommodating to women or to people who aren't as strong? Like, maybe not. Like, it's part of Leadville. Like, maybe these are the things that you just like, they are in the bag with these races.
You know, when you're signing up that those are possibilities.
Yeah.
And that's that.
If you want to sign up for, like, there are plenty of races that exist that you can sign up like the week before. You can watch the weather. You can do a last minute registration. And like that can be the way that you gravel ride. And that's fine. If that's the way you want to do it, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, Unbound is, and many of these big races are such that you have to sign up for a lottery. Like you have to get in 8 months in advance. And, you know, that's part of the adventure of it.
I will say, seeing a lot of riders come through and then seeing a lot of finishers, everyone just was, it was like, you know what you're signing up for and you just accept it and you make the most of it. Like, I'm sure there were people who were upset and had bad days as a result of the weather and were ticked. But for the most part, you have to accept that that's what it is. And most people did. It was like, wow, that was a really fun challenge. It was really hard, but I did it. And I mean, you know, even some of the people that we were with for We Ride and your sister and like people who are brand new to gravel are like, wow, that was awesome. And it's like, you just had the worst gravel experience ever.
But it's like, you did it.
Yeah.
And like, that is like, there are not many people that will get to say that they did an Unbound year like that. Like it's core memory. It teaches you a lot about what you're actually capable of. You will like inevitably become a better bike rider out there.
Yeah.
You will do shit on a bike that you're like, I had no idea I could do that. Not only distance duration, but like terrain, handling. I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. Like there are so many things out there that are so valuable from an experience standpoint and from a life lesson standpoint. And yeah, I think that what you saw with people crossing the finish line, just muddy, messed up, like was like, I can't believe I did that, but I did. And I'm so glad that I did, because like I now know more about what I can do. And that's pretty remarkable. Yeah.
I was super proud of you. I always am. I mean, even watching you come into the aid stations, I'm like, that's mine. She's mine.
Which apparently, like, that's just how people are at aid stations.
Yeah.
Like, that's my rider. That's my rider. Yeah. It's really fun. I've been on the fence about what I'm going to do next year for Unbound. My original plan was to do the 350. I may take another stab at a clean 200. I may take a stab at a really, really fast 100. I don't know. I was talking with Rebecca Rush about Unbound when we saw her, which we'll talk about on a different podcast. And she kind of asked me, what is your limiting factor with gravel riding? Like, what do you think is like, what do you think holds you back? Not to say like I'm not a good gravel rider. That's not what she was saying, but every athlete has something. And I said, for me, it's like, it's durability at the ultra distances. Cause I don't have, years and years on the bike. I don't have like lots of experience racing that distance. So there's always something that comes up that I'm not expecting, in the 200, or there has been the last 2 years. And then I said, I'm also starting to, to think maybe I'm more of a 100-mile specialist, because I am like a high power output. I'm definitely not an ultra athlete. And I was like, but at the same time, like I know that about myself. And I think that's also why I'm drawn to the 200-mile, because it's not something that I'm like necessarily cut out for. Like I would be better in the shorter distances. And then she kind of said, like, I totally get that. But like, if you're going to be better in the 100, and if you have a knack for power output, she was like, do power output races, do 100-mile races, like develop that, lean into it. She's like, you will only get better at endurance. You will only get better at the very long rides. She's like, but there comes a point where it's very hard to get power output back. And the power output that you can develop and use now will only help you in the future. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of, I'm like kind of rethinking distances overall, and maybe I do kind of like shift into some short distance races for the next couple of years, and just, lean into my meatball tendencies. Because I do, I've always been a power output athlete. I've always really, really thrived in strength to body weight ratio sort of endeavors. And maybe that's just what I need to do for the next little bit. So yeah, I'm thinking.
Your decision impacts my decision. Because if you do the 100, I can race because you don't need me.
I would just
you
do
wouldn't
neutral.
stop.
No.
And then if you did the 350, you also can't have support. So I could race the 100. Mm-hmm. And if you do the 200, then I could race, and you could do like crew for hire, get someone else to crew you.
Yeah.
Or I would crew you. So it's up in the air.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to race Unbound once.
I think you should race.
I'm definitely not racing the 200.
No?
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
I'm not a power output athlete, but I'm also not a person who wants to be on a bike for 12 plus hours.
Yeah, you reach the limits of your durability pretty quickly.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Gosh, that's it. I mean, the only thing I didn't really touch on was nutrition, but I did the same thing I did last year pretty much, which was
38 gels.
38 gels. Very gel heavy. I tend to like gels more than, although I did more, I think actually I did fewer gels proportionally this year, because I did more carbs in the bottle. But still lots of gels, very like the Never Second high volume gels that are isotonic, and you don't have to worry about your stomach too much. My stomach issues were unrelated to the gels. Yeah, and that worked super well. People kind of like gawk at the number of gels, but I'm like, it's the same thing. If you're doing high concentrated scratch, like you're doing that many, it's the same. It's literally the same.
Yeah.
Mine just come out of little packets, which I use the Hydro Flask squeezies now. Those are great because you can fit 4 gels into a squeezy. You can put them wherever, and then you just sort of like squeeze some in your mouth. It's less precise, but it averages out over time.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Thank you.
I think more than anything, impressed by your training and how fit you were going in. And it's unfortunate that you didn't get to like really show it off with like a really dry course. But at the same time, I think it's kind of cool that you were able to show off your fitness in different circumstances, harder conditions, and seeing that like you PR'd your 100-mile in those conditions.
In like
that's exciting.
Yeah, that was like, I mean, I know I've already said it, but that's like the highlight for me is that 100-mile split. And
you were on your pace for a good course, like a optimal course.
Yeah.
After the first 100 miles in those conditions, which is nuts.
Because they weren't efficient conditions.
Like you had a sub 12 goal.
Yeah.
And you were under 6 hours in the first 100.
Yeah.
And you got to the 100 feeling pretty good, especially after that that kind of weird pull that guy was doing.
Yeah. What is Joe doing? This is why she's not allowed.
She wants to get it. Her mouth is getting closer to the microphone.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, you know, this is, I think the 100-mile split, those conditions, like if there's a case to be made, or a case study on bike handling, like that, the only reason why I was able to do that is because I spend so much time riding bikes, specifically like fat bikes. And I mean, if you know me, that's like my weird kink, is that I just really like fat bikes and hardtails. But fat bikes and fat biking in the wintertime is like a hands down hack for bike handling, because you just learn how to stay on a bike. You learn how to deal with no grip whatsoever. And you figure out how to move your body and allow the bike to do what it's going to do, and stay vertical and find purchase and grip once you can, and keep going. And that's, I mean, the only reason I was able to do that is because I was staying on the bike, and many, many other people were not staying on the bike. Plus fat biking is super fun.
Questionable, but if you have dogs, it's more fun.
All right. So I guess that's part 1 of our cycling adventures podcast, the Unbound recap. I think maybe the next one we'll talk about Dusty Bandito, which was really cool this year also. And our Idaho trip, when we went down to hang out with Rebecca Rush and do some bike packing on the new course, and content shooting, and just, being able to really like connect and get to know her even better, which was cool. Anything you want to drop in?
Just great job. And if you did Unbound, great job to you too. I was so proud of all of our tactic people out there.
I was like,
We Ride was a success, and I'm excited for the next iteration next year. I think I might have to join it.
Yeah, like officially. If you're going to train, you got to get some training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome to see so many people out there, new to gravel riding, experienced riders. It was such a great experience, and I wasn't even riding.
I always tear up like at the start. Usually I tear up like at the start, and then I didn't. I was like, I guess I'm not going to cry. And then literally like 4 minutes later, like riding out on the roads, I was like, I got my cry out of the way. But it is, I love seeing that many people on bikes. I find bikes to be very empowering, and the more people I can get on a bike, the better. So I hope this podcast encouraged you, didn't discourage you. Not every year is like this, but the ones that are make for really good stories and memories. So.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be Meredith Root to complete Unbound. There were some people brand new to gravel who finished the 100 and had a great time. So yeah, I mean, it's a very inclusive sport. And if you're interested, think about it for next year. We'll get you there. Meredith got a lot of people to the finish line. So I think that deserves some of a shout out too.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I didn't do the work. I did the programming, but I was happy that so many of our people had success in this race and other races that we were doing. And if you don't want to wait to Unbound, we'll be obviously at Fernie Gravel Grind in a couple weeks. We will do RPI, Rebecca's Private Idaho, in September. So look at that one to sign up for. Sun Valley's amazing. Maybe Big Sugar in October. Mid-South in March. We'll do a maybe Arizona trip in February. So there'll be some events coming out for sure for biking. And then I think maybe Arizona will be a run bike sort of mixed group. But stay tuned for that. Thanks for interviewing me, Alex.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys listening and following along for this journey and adventure. And we'll catch you on the next episode.